everybody. Welcome back to our breath series on Wellness Wednesdays. I'm Kim Thompson and
I'm Megan Messick.
And we're just following up our third week in the series with some helpful hints and pointers. We've been working all day. The music therapists know that all day, 12-hour days. But anyway, we want to just touch base today with some quick techniques to follow up with our even breathing and using our diaphragm that we talked about last week. Well, before the holidays. So today we're going to jump right into the first experiential, which is now what we're going to call 2-to-1 breathing. And those of you who saw that we previously mentioned some performance wellness techniques by a fabulous woman, Dr. Louise Montello, we'll be citing in our blog if you feel like learning more about her specific techniques. This is something that she also teaches, but is a little more common with music and breath. So 2-to-1 breathing. What we're going to be doing is this week, once you've realized what your tempo is, if you're breathing 2 beats in, 2 beats out, or 4 in, 4 out, find that regulation and then begin using 2-to-1 breathing as a way to challenge yourself, even for some further control. So I know my breath pretty well, so I'm going to have Megan do 3 in and 6 beats out for me tonight. And we're going to do a very simple pairing with music, so just light pulsing, a little dynamic, and a chord change. So for beginning music therapists or people who just aren't confident yet with different instruments, so easy to do with whatever you have. So Megan, I'll give you a tempo, and you're not going to be able to hear me breathe, I hope I'm doing it right, but really I'm focusing on that diaphragm releasing and coming in. So I'll keep my hands here for a little help. So Megan, let's take it about and I'm going to prepare my breath. So that feels good for me tonight after rushing around. Not too short, not too long, for my breath response. So that's just another one to add into your bag of tricks. So Meg, I'm going to have you chat with me for a minute as we kind of troubleshoot some of the things that I think people might be curious about, or anything that we can shed light on as even new music therapists that use these techniques. I will say that I have much more of a wellness like background. If you've had read the bio, Megan and I come from very different backgrounds, but it's awesome because we come together at a place where we kind of intersect, different styles like wellness, practicality,
Exactly. I do not have a very large wellness background. I'm actually very new to wellness.
Right.
I've been able to kind of pare down some of these techniques to kind of their simplest form, and they really make sense to me. So, it's been great to start using them and implementing them with clients. So
yeah. So needless to say, we've had a lot of fun comparisons and how to begin presenting material that's approachable, right? How many of you out there are going to be like, geez, I don't feel very good about what would be considered very wellness-like, model music therapy interventions. But really, we're gutting it down to bare tacks. So it's just, breath is important to the body. You know this even in your training, even in school as music therapists and the work that you do. But we just want to talk about how, from different backgrounds, I'm from a very voice-centered background. I've done classical music, opera, jazz. I've done the whole exploration of voice sounds. And you, tell us about.
I studied piano, and so that was my primary instrument all the way through college. I did piano performance, and even before music therapy. So not a lot of work with breathing. So, all of these techniques, when I went to the first level of performance wellness training, a lot of these breathing techniques were very new to me. I'd seen them done in vocalists that I had accompanied, but had never really experienced them for myself. So it was great to kind of start learning.
And what's cool is you told me before that you had actually started using in your own teaching, not even with music therapy, but even before doing breathing, which I thought was really interesting because paying attention to your breath and as a musician is one of the nicest things you can do, just even as an individual. So what did you used to do with your
For all of my piano students, I would notice, and I actually was guilty of doing this as a student as well, you know, when I saw them get on stage, immediately they would sit down on the bench and begin to play.
Right.
And not only would their piece be extremely, extremely fast, but it would really heighten the anxiety. You know, all of these weird, like, body tics would start, you know,
right.
shaking. And I'm sure if you've ever done performing, you are familiar
yeah.
with these sensations. So something that I actually really instilled in my students and got in the habit of doing myself was as soon as you sit down at the piano bench wherever you are, whether it's just for home practice or before a big performance, I always had them take several deep, calming breaths just to get themselves centered before they started anything. Mm-hmm. And you know, that just really helped make a more even-keeled performance.
You know what I love about that is I think that comes back to that point when you hear us say putting intention into your breathing. I mean, it's one thing to sit in your yoga thing, which is great. I meditate and do all that as well. But the other is really just put intention into it. Okay, I'm thinking of my breath. I'm just focusing on my breath and trying to regulate. So the 2-to-1 breathing exercise, I'm not sure if I mentioned, is a great one in instances of fight or flight. So high stress, stage fright, fight, flight. So you have all these scenarios that really equaling the same thing. So you use your breath intentionally, try to apply it to whatever setting you can. And that brings us to talking about troubleshooting. Maybe where do you use this kind of stuff? You know, are you aware of the many different populations that just by incorporating a few things can make a big difference? So what have you had experience with using?
The most recent one I had actually highlighted on the very first post of this series was with a young woman, developmental and various physical disabilities. And in exciting situations, you know, whether it was loud music, whether people were really laughing, she would become so overstimulated, almost with positive emotion, she would get so excited that she would quite often lose control. You know, she was very fragile, so sometimes she would fall. She would just really, it almost got dangerous at some points for her. So as someone observing and, you know, working on her therapy team, we really wanted to target that as an intervention. We tried several things, and in one lesson, we made her take several deep breaths. And the change was instantaneous. So immediately we applied that to the lesson, then tried to generalize it outside, and now she does it independently when she feels herself getting a little overwhelmed.
That's great.
We paired it with a movement, so she lifts her arms up, takes a big inhale, arms down, exhale, and it just really helps her to balance some of the energy that's getting a little out of control. So, you know, that's a really successful experience that I've seen most recently come out of using these techniques and exercises.
I just want to highlight what I was like saying to is that Megan was talking about pairing emotion. Now what's so cool is I'm just kind of a big fan of as many ways as you can integrate your sensory systems, the better. So I bet you, and I know because Megan and I had talked a little bit about this before, when she's saying that she can regulate herself, like even just by a cue of raising the hands, that's by breathing. I need to breathe. I need to pay attention to that. So cool. I know that for myself, I use a lot of breathing with senior groups, which I mentioned before. Really, every and all population that it's pertinent to. I've had extreme wellness cases, behavioral, emotional issues, you know, just focusing on the breath. How do you feel? Talking about the emotional connection to that. I've also had it where we've been using it functionally for just speech expression or initiating sound. I've had one individual, so don't be deterred because something may happen very quickly and your client or yourself may just flourish and take to these exercises to a whole new level. But there are times when we're literally just the act of intentional breathing. I have a particular person that I've been pairing a ball movement, a big inflated ball, and we always warm up to listening to music. So we'll 1, 2, 3, throw, and working on just as we're moving that ball just to get anything out. And after 2 years, we have some real consistency, about 85%. So slow and steady goes a long way as well. Doesn't have to be the big bang, everything's the breath, but it can be five minutes of your treatment plan. Just might find ways to use it that can really help round out some other things. So what about some troubleshooting things of breath issues that people might have had over this week? I can think of if you're having trouble, my guilty thing from when I was a voice student is when I would really prepare to take a breath and I have this really nice lung set up and my diaphragm is here and I would get ready to sing and it would all come out really fast. So what I would have to do is really take a minute, and my voice instructor at the time was really gracious and we talked quite a bit about how to control that exhale. So some of you or clients might be experiencing the same thing, and just some little tricks and tools might be using a straw, just to slow the flow of air as it's coming out of your mouth, or doing the balloon, which my preschoolers love, by the way. Also is a funny noises song. But so there's lots of ways that you can incorporate and use the breath.
Yes, and next week we're really going to go into depth on highlighting some of those additional tools, those really tangible objects that you can use to make learning about the breath and applying some of these techniques a little bit more tangible for clients. So you mentioned the straw. There's plenty of wind and breath instruments that are used to create sound, and we're going to highlight some of those next week, how to use those for some of these exercises, along with some other tools like that. So stick around, and hopefully you'll catch that next week.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, you guys. We hope happy breathing, be connected to your body, and use that as your biofeedback. Give yourself some time and attention. Thanks so much.
Thanks.